Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the first actual cooking video that I'm going to do here for you, just to illustrate a simple yet effective breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If you're in a hurry, this thing probably takes about 6 or 7 minutes to make. So what we have here is 2 thin ribeyes cut up, 2 pieces of uncured bacon, no salt, no sugar, none of that stuff. We got 3 eggs in here that I have yet to scramble, a cup of onions, and I cook my food on beef tallow. This is a really good fat alternative to oil and lard and whatever else you can take. We got some salt, and then you can season to your flavor taste. I also like to put dill. This is my secret ingredient. So let's get on this. Let's get on the road here. We're gonna start by turning the stove on, because I didn't do that. We're gonna put the tallow in. We're gonna let this heat up. We're gonna let this go as fast as possible. And then we wait. Okay, so once the tallow has melted down, we're gonna just add the steak in. I typically do this on a cold pan so I don't get splashed. And you can see it kind of comes up to a roaring boil on its own here. Now some people will tell you cooking ribeye in a pan is sacrilege. I love it because all the juices stay with it, I think. Although I do like a grilled ribeye too. We'll separate this out a little bit. Give it all its own space. And while that's cooking, I'm actually going to turn this down a little bit to not set the alarms off in this house. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scramble the eggs, because that takes a little bit. Okay, let's flip some of this meat over. This is going to continue cooking, and we're probably going to do this to a medium well. As you can see, it's going really quickly here. Now you can scale this recipe up, obviously, to whatever size you need. You might not have the same caloric requirements that I do, so do that at your own level. So we're going to scramble this up with my little whisk, because why not? Just until it's a little frothy. And then we're going to add the onions into this, because these are frozen. I got frozen diced onions, so that way I didn't have to sit here chopping them down. Let's give it a little bit more heat, and you literally just let this roll. The onions cooled down the pan. So bring it back up to temperature. Might need to put it on high for a little bit until it kicks in, especially if you have an electric stove like this. It takes a minute. Now, here's another secret that you're going to want to follow. Don't season your eggs until they're cooked. If you season them beforehand or during the cooking, I'm pretty sure the term is you'll deflate the eggs. So you don't want to do that. It also changes the flavor profile a little bit. So while this is going, you can see it's coming back up. Let some of that moisture cook out, because these were frozen onions. They're gonna kind of boil down, but you want the steam, because that helps cook the meat through the middle of it, because you don't want it raw. This is not one of those ribeyes that you would want to eat rare, medium rare. It's just not the texture or the quality. I didn't get, for this particular meal, I did not get the expensive stuff. All right, it's starting to come down a little bit. And the meat is starting to turn kind of gray, but that's okay. Once the moisture cooks out of it and the pan dries up, this will sear up a little bit, and it'll give it that nice profile that you want a steak to have, actually. And you let this cook for a while. Once the moisture cooks out, you'll see that only the tallow remains, and then you want to turn the heat down because you don't want smoke coming off this pan. Otherwise, your eggs are going to taste like smoked tallow, which some people might like. I personally don't care for it. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see the nutritional contents and macro elements of this, go over to my social media. I'll have it up there. Links to all that is below. All right, now is when the seasoning comes for this. I'm not seasoning the eggs yet, and I'm not putting salt on it yet, but I'm adding paprika. And here you can add pretty much whatever you want, whatever you like. I use simple stuff like paprika. We got some garlic powder over here. Give it that punch. And I leave the dill for last. The dill and the garlic salt go on last. I typically don't put normal salt on this because I don't want to destroy the eggs when I pour them in. So have a look at this. Now you're getting that profile that we've been looking for. The onions are coming together. The caramelization is taking place. And it's actually really, really smelling fantastic right about now. Give us a minute here to come together, and then we'll pour the eggs on. Now, if you're an omelet type, you can actually cut the bacon down into little pieces and put that in here as well. But note to self, or note to you, that the bacon cooks faster than the rest of this, except for maybe the onions. We pour that in, and like I said before, you can scale this however you want in terms of quantity of eggs, how many ribeyes, and then you fold it all together, and then you get this nice color palette that I really love for my breakfast foods. Now, right now, it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is my breakfast. I'm literally making this for myself to eat here in a minute. We're gonna let this cook for a minute, break it down a little bit here with the spatula. I'm getting signals from the crew that there's some hunger in the audience. So go down and leave me a comment if you're getting hungry. Once this is done, you're gonna plate it. I think I used the wrong size plate for this, but that's okay, it'll work out. Once this is done, bring this back up to temperature and do your bacon. Now, I don't do bacon the same way that like pros do it, where they'll cover them with water and render the fat. No, it takes too much effort. And if I had the effort, then I would be making a lot more food for a lot more people. And I'd probably own a restaurant in the process. Or a food truck. For the bacon, I tend to use tongs. So I got these little mini tongs here. And we'll let this cook down. For bacon, I pepper it. So going back to the eggs, I'm going to use a little bit of garlic salt just on top, just to give it a little bit more garlicky flavor. And the secret, let's see if we can get this little can to work. Dill. Just a little bit, give it some color, more earth tones. Now bacon, I flip several times because, well, it's always worked for me. Make sure it's not sticking. I noticed that this bacon actually has a tendency to cook a little bit better in the tallow than it does in pork fat. Also, I feel like, don't quote me on this, but I feel like the tallow has a higher smoke point than pork fat does. I might be wrong on that, but I've used tallow in cast iron at full temperature and never really got it to burn or smoke. I might be wrong, but I may have also been lucky all these years. I kind of poke down the bacon a little bit just to keep it, you know, semi-flat. Yeah. And then we're gonna put a little bit of salt on this because this is uncured. This is garlic salt. And I only salt it on one side. And a little bit of color and punch. I add a little bit of paprika to one side only. I pepper both sides, but I only do the seasoning profile on one side because bacon's so thin, you don't want to overdo it with the seasonings. A little bit more pepper. And then we flip. Yeah, it's coming together nicely. All right, this bacon's almost done. Let's do this one more time on this side. You can see it's getting crispy on this side. Looks really good. Now you really got to be careful, especially if you're cooking on high heat, because this will burn and it will actually catch fire if you let it go. I've done that twice in my life. That's right. The chicken's on fire, except in this case it'd be the bacon. So. And I don't paper towel it or anything because that'll take off the seasoning. Remember to turn off your stove when you're done. And that you can cook with again if you wanted to. I usually don't, but there you go. Breakfast fit for a king. We got ribeye steak and eggs with onions, some garlic salt, black pepper, and 2 bacon strips that are seasoned with paprika and black pepper and a little bit of garlic salt. So thank you for joining me on this journey. Hope you guys enjoy.